let's bring Mike in. Mike is an Oahu water protector, and he's coming on to talk with us today about the naval fuel facility, Red Hill, which has been responsible for all kinds of environmental destruction and toxins put into the environment that are harming individuals, harming water supply and whatnot. There we go. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey,
Welcome. I'm so glad you could join us today.
thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm glad that you are joining us today because I know that, there's been this fire retardant spill now that just recently happened that's coming from Red Hill. But this isn't the first time we've had a problem here, right? A year ago, there was a fuel spill. The Navy said that fuel was not going to leak into the water reserve, but it did get into the water reserve, sickened many people, and there's been arguments back and forth. Can you give our audience a little bit of background on that story and what's happened after that?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Mikey. I'm with the Oahu Water Protectors, and we have been working actually for years around the issue of trying to shut down Red Hill, which is this fuel facility that was built by the U.S. Navy around World War II, almost 80 years ago, and at its maximum could contain up to 250 million gallons of toxic fuel sitting just 100 feet above our sole source aquifer.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so that's water that's going to like 500,000 people on the entire island. So there's no like alternative to that, So people have been warning about it for decades. Some people we've been organizing with have been organizing to try to shut it down for like the past 8 years. And last year, around Thanksgiving time, a leak that occurred in May into the fire suppression system. So jet fuel got into the fire suppression drain line, basically. Sat there.
Yeah, and that was the PVC line that busted?
Yes, a PVC line. So the military hired a contractor, and they against in obvious code violation, they replaced certain piping with PVC instead of steel. And rather than pay for a replacement that was up to code, the Navy was like, "Oh, we'll just repair some of it." And so they left this giant area that is supposed to be a fire suppression foam drain line with PVC. And so when a fuel water mixture got in that pipe, it got hit by this cart that goes to that tunnel every day. And
because it was sagging so far down, it hit,
And like 19,000 gallons of jet fuel and water mixture burst out of that. It leaked for 34 hours. It got into the Navy's water wells that go to 93,000 households in Hawaii, many of them military service members and their families, but also civilians, and hundreds of people were poisoned. And we're talking babies, children, pets, all sorts of people. And that's what we've been organizing around for the past year is trying to, show solidarity with those families, but also to get them to permanently shut down Red Hill. And we were able to do that. But just 1 year after all of those people got sick and they contaminated our aquifer, on November 29th, so just days after, the 1 year anniversary of this spill, they spilled another 1,300 plus gallons of AFFF concentrate.
Yeah.
And so this is the firefighting foam before it's foam. So it's 3% concentrate. It's something that you're supposed to add 97 parts water to before you dilute it into the foam that you end up spraying that we're all familiar with, right? And that foam contains PFAS, which is it's known to cause
forever
cancer.
Chemicals.
Yeah, forever chemicals. And so that it just leaked, that concentrate, during the rainiest time of the year. This is the rainy season in Hawaii, just 100 feet above our aquifer. And now we're just waiting and hoping that it doesn't get into the municipal water system.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Didn't they after what happened last year, didn't they at some point promise that they were going to shut down Red Hill? What happened with that?
Yeah. So as a result of our mobilizing, our agitating, our international solidarity networks kicking into high gear, and our community organizing, we were able, within just the span of a few months, we were able to force the Pentagon to take a world historic L. The head of the Department of Defense had to announce that they were going to commit to shutting down Red Hill. The problem with that is that they are still moving like molasses, right? When it comes to a multi-billion-dollar make work project for the military industrial complex. They can, or funneling billions of dollars to fuel a proxy war in Ukraine. They can work as fast as possible. But when it comes to addressing an existential crisis for, a sovereign nation that they are still illegally occupying, then there's all sorts of reasons why they can't defuel.
So Abby Martin and Mike Preisner from Empire Files produced a couple-minute clip on what was going on last year at Christmas time. So this was right after the first spill. And I think it's interesting to learn a little bit about the people involved, because the Navy Secretary is part of the military-industrial complex. He comes from a startup company that contracted with the Navy. So I want to play that. And then, Mike, I think you might have contributed to this little clip in some way, is my understanding. That's correct? Yeah. Let's go ahead and play this, and then Mike can talk to us about it.
Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro. My wife Betty and I would like to wish all our sailors, Marines, civilians, and military families a happy and healthy holiday season. Whether you're at home in the States for the holidays or serving around the world, we are incredibly grateful for everything that you do.
Well, it's not the fuel itself that's making them sick. It's the fuel in the water that's making them sick. In fact, there was a press release that was released by the governor and the delegation, and I'm taking that request and their suggestions very seriously. And
or is it an order? What do you consider it?
it's not an order, it's a request that's being made.
The Navy and Capulina Beach homes blatantly lied to the community about our water being poisoned by the jet fuel leak. A lot of residents were still showering, bathing their kids, and having all these side effects, but they trusted what our property managers and the Navy were saying.
I haven't seen nothing from anybody. I haven't gotten any help. Yeah, they give you the runaround. For what? Because somebody doesn't want to be liable for telling you something that they're not supposed to tell us? Like, what's really up? They need to shut down Red Hill immediately, like today, now.
They need to shut it down. They should have shut it down a long time ago. It should have never been there in the first place.
I think Del Toro and the Navy refusing to shut down Red Hill shows how much he doesn't care about us, the people. They know, and they've been knowing, that this is a disaster. They need to shut it down, decommission, defuel, just get it out of here. And don't put it anywhere else. We don't need it anywhere else on this island. It's already suffered enough.
The really well-produced video, let me say that, and
you.
it's informative. You know, the part where he says it's not the fuel that's a problem, it's the fuel that's in the water that's a problem is just... Are you kidding me?
Shit.
It's,
Like,
yeah.
really?
It's kind of funny because
It's just when they're forced to drink it. That's the problem. I did a
mean,
research on this.
it's truly
stunning
galaxy brain shit that we've had to deal with, for years, and this is actually not uncommon, not just with Navy Command, but with basically all of the people who are kind of like either bought and paid for, like lobbyists, legislators who claim to be progressives but who are in the pocket of the military-industrial complex, and defense contractors, and also even certain subject matter experts. Like we recently had this Board of Water Supply meeting with the Department of Health and the Navy, and the Department of Health's own expert was talking about how he's the toxicologist, and he's talking about how this certain level of like 160 parts per billion of jet fuel in the water is acceptable limits beneath what they would consider actionable levels, environmental actionable levels, and 100 parts per billion is the threshold in which you can see, taste, and smell fuel in your water. And so, one of the board members asked him, like, is that the level that you would accept in your own water, the water that you drink? And the guy responded, I definitely wouldn't want any jet fuel in my water as a human being, right? But the toxicologist in me says this is below the environmentally actionable levels, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, right? It's like,
oh my god!
It's like they get into like a literal lizard brain where they somehow seem to think that they themselves do not need water to survive, and it kind of like speaks to the entire ideology that's necessary for like this capitalist imperialist system to function. Is you literally have to deny what every single cell in your body is literally screaming for, which is water is life, right?
Water is life, right?
Yeah.
So I know that in this latest incident, Mikey, they're not revealing everything that happened. They're withholding videos from the public. So to get to the present, what do you think is in those videos? Like, what do you think they're trying to hide from people?
I'm actually not quite sure. Whatever eventually does end up getting out to the public, it's definitely not going to be the full feed, right? Just because that's not how the military operates. But this is actually quite familiar to the spill last year, in the sense that there are video cameras placed all around that facility, in every part of that tunnel. Like, we visited, and one of the first things we saw, we entered through Adit 6, where the jet fuel, where the AFFF spill occurred and spilled out of, to the outside of the facility. One of the first things I saw there was a security camera, which they initially claimed was not there. They didn't have footage of. When the jet fuel leak happened in 2021, they claimed there was no surveillance footage because mysteriously and just completely coincidentally, they had hired a private contractor, and someone had clipped the line that knocked out all the camera footage for months.
Right.
In the place that they say is so secure that it is completely closed to the public. They're highly secretive and selective about who they would even let visit that site. But for some reason, they weren't bothered to fix these supposedly broken cameras. And so they initially claim Admiral Wade, who's just recently replaced, because they all circle out every like three years or sometimes less. He said there were no security camera footage of the event, and then
in fact, we have that video. Should we play it from your Twitter? Yeah, let's go ahead and play it. So Rear Admiral John Wade refused to answer a simple question in what could releasing video footage of the AFFF spill to the general public compromise the integrity of the investigation of the leak? So this was his response.
Our next question is, can you please release the video of the AFFF/PFAS spill? Why can't you so we can trust you?
Thanks for the question. I've seen your signs here. The video is part of the investigation right now. It's not going to be released to the public until I can guarantee that the integrity of the investigation is secured, and then I will work to release the video accordingly.
In what conceivable way could your investigation be compromised by the public release of the video? That's a valid question. Can you please answer it? Just give one example.
We're going to go to the next
wait. Do you have an answer to that? I want to hear an answer.
It's to preserve the integrity of the investigation. We did share the video with the EPA and the Department of Health so that they can see and perhaps determine if there are any modifications to the remediation plan that we've worked in coordination with those stakeholders moving forward.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question.
Okay, the next question.
My question was, you've seen the video. What in the video,
excuse me,
and releasing it to the public could possibly compromise the integrity of the investigation?
My next question is...
No, don't shut this down. What are you covering up?
Can we go to the next question, please?
No.
I don't go to your house and make any kind.
Well, they're in our house. No. We want an answer. We want an answer.
You just need an answer. I'm sorry.
That we are not releasing the video until the investigation officer is satisfied that release would not in any way inhibit his ability to conduct interviews and to get the information that's needed to make a determination of what happened and why. I understand why you want to see that video, and as soon as the investigation is advanced to a point where it can be released, I'll work to do that.
Shout out to y'all, man, because that was pretty badass.
Thanks.
That was badass.
You're in our house. Well said. Well said.
Yeah, you're in our, and it's right. You are in our house, and no, you do have to answer this. The fact that I'm so tired of these folks that are in positions of power that think they don't have to be responsible or accountable for things that have happened, or if they don't have to respond to their constituency or public. It's just that's not how this works.
That what they said there has special significance because it was coming from Kanaka Maoli, Native Hawaiians, right? So it's like when they say you're in our house, it's like they're talking about the U.S. military as being a uninvited guest, right? So it's like you don't get to choose the format in which you lie to us, right? I myself am not Native Hawaiian, but yeah, the people who are backing me up, the voice is pretty familiar, as you might be able to tell. That was me pushing that question. Like,
yeah, no, I knew it was you.
Yeah. I mean, there were plenty of Kanaka who were demanding, more transparency because, and here's the thing: is like, so they couldn't answer a basic question. Like, their bullshit excuse is that they can't release the surveillance footage because they're worried that it might compromise the integrity of an ongoing investigation. It's like, well, first of all, why is the Navy even allowed to investigate itself, right? Like this is like the cop from The Departed, right? Or this is I like to refer to it as like not only is the fox guarding the hen house, but like after someone has killed all of the hens and then stolen all the eggs, they've hired a fox detective to investigate the scene of the crime. That's what's being done here. And so the simple question that I asked is like, how could releasing this video to the public possibly compromise the integrity of the investigation, particularly when everyone you need to interview about it has already seen the video, right? If you've circulated it internally, then there's no reason not to circulate it widely, because there's no conceivable way in which would it compromise the integrity of the investigation. And the thing is, like, I don't think there's going to be any smoking gun in these surveillance cameras. I think what people are maybe picturing is like, kind of like a Charlie Chaplin, like Three Stooges, Mr. Bean type, scenario where like somebody's like tripping in like AFFF concentrate and someone's trying to help them up and they fall. It's not going to be like that, right? But I just think the video footage alone being available to the public, whatever is witnessed by any worker there, just seeing whatever type of leak is going on there, and the visual of it traveling, like that's a powerful image that just makes them look even worse, right? And that while it was
optics,
it was happening on their watch, but they clearly weren't watching.
When they clearly weren't watching. That's exactly right. So the water board, I want to bring that element into the conversation. I have a clip from Honolulu Board of Water Supply Chief Engineer Ernie Lau talking about what happened, and he gets visibly upset in this video. I want to play this clip, and you can fill us in on what's going on in relationship to the water board.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get a good night's sleep last night. Because it was like at 2 o'clock in the morning. And not a literal scream or cry, but in my mind, it almost felt like I heard a scream or cry of our aquifer, the vi in our aquifer in that area crying out to say that no more contamination. Don't put any more contamination into our precious vi. So I would hope the Navy would consider, no, I don't hope, I demand of the Navy, you need to move faster.
Oh, yeah.
I demand.
Yeah. It's great to see him kind of like taking up our stance and our talking points. Just because, I mean, yeah, Ernie Lau, obviously you can see in the footage, just the sweetest, most caring person you could possibly ask for in any kind of like government or you know, bureaucratic position. He genuinely cares about life, about water. He genuinely cares about the people who rely on that water for you know, daily needs and life itself. And it takes a lot to get someone like Ernie Lau to go from requesting to demanding, as you can probably tell, right? And that emotion, you know, it came out of him once before, and that was, you know, during the jet fuel leaks, and it really helped to galvanize a lot of people into action and to actually see, you know, someone who supposedly represents the interests of the people, actually, you know, walking that walk and talking that talk, and to see a level of transparency you would never see in like the Department of Health or the EPA or the U.S. Navy for damn sure. And it really someone like that who has been on top of this issue and trying to push the Navy to do something about the existential crisis that has been looming over the aquifer for years, for this long, you know, have that emotional response to this most recent leak, this most recent spill. It really shows just how serious this is, right? What the actual stakes are. And this is what's been kind of frustrating, not just on the international and national level, but on the local level. Like, I don't know how we're all still just going to work today, you know?
Right.
Just even on Oahu. Like, I get it, because it's hard to, I mean, nobody knows what AFFF is. Few people even know what PFAS is, right? Even people in movement work, in organizing. But like, this is, it's like we're in the blast radius of a nuclear bomb that's already dropped.
Yeah.
And we're just going about our lives. And it drives me up a wall, because this should be block A news on every news station, especially in the United States, just every day, until something, you know, I mean, this is Flint
it's serious.
Water
It's very
level
serious.
Crisis. Yeah.
I agree. It absolutely is.
I mean, this is
Flint
this
level.
is a population of 1 million people. That means so much in superficial and very real ways to people all over the world, Oahu, right? And nobody cares. I mean, Status Coup cares, you know, that's great, and other, you know, left media organizations care, indigenous organizations care, but this needs to be news everywhere. Like, this needs to be a priority one, not just for our local government officials, but for the Biden administration, right? And the Biden administration has actually been like, they're terrible on a whole host of issues, but PFAS, they've actually been relatively proactive about, you know, like DOD is supposed to phase out PFAS, but look at the deadlines for implementation of phasing out, you know, mil-spec or military specification meeting fire suppressing foams, right? It's 2024. when Red Hill's supposed to be shut down. So, by the time DoD will actually be compliant with standards that don't endanger our aquifer with PFAS, Red Hill should be closed by then. So yeah, we're kind of in a bind here. But that's also no excuse. There's no reason that they can't replace their existing systems with a PFAS-free AFFF foam or an alternative to AFFF entirely. There's no reason that the U.S. military, they just recently, put forward an $835 billion annual budget. They have the resources. They don't have to have bake sales to replace their AFFF system.
Right.
So
bake sales.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about congressional responsibility here, or obligation. I have a clip from Betty McCollum, Rep. Betty McCollum. This was from last May when she was questioning Secretary of Navy, Del Toro on Red Hill. Let's play that clip, and I'd like to hear some updates from you on where you see Congress in all of this.
Red Hill was a World War II fuel depot built in Hawaii, built over an aquifer. No one was paying attention to aquifers at the time. We know how important they are now. You're well aware of the leak and the issue we have up there. We need to get that fuel depot repositioned, removed. In the meantime, we have to make sure that no further damage is done. So we need to know, Mr. Secretary, that, and I know that you are, but I just want it for the record, that you're committed to get us the report as soon as you can about how the $1 billion request will be used in FY23 so we can include it in here. Your team has been working with staff, but we're preparing our budget right now. And so anything that you can get to us, even if it's in bits and pieces and you have to go back and adjust something, will be tremendously helpful for the committee staff as we move forward. We're hoping to be on the floor in July. So we look forward to working with you, and I just wanted to put that out there on the record.
You have my commitment, Madam Chair, that we will continue to work very closely to take all the necessary steps to close Red Hill and to distribute that fuel where it needs to be distributed, and then to continue efforts with regards to the environmental steps that will be taken afterwards.
And then also as a person who, both as a state representative, as a member of Congress, has been working with the Pentagon, and I'll leave it at the high level up here, the Pentagon, on remedial things that needed to happen after pollution occurred. We look forward to making sure that the citizens of Hawaii know that what's happened or in the soils around there, that we stand ready to assist them and not put a burden on the citizens, and also the long-term health consequences that may or may not be out there, not only for the citizens of Hawaii, but especially for the civilians and the folks who wore uniforms in and around in that area, that we will be taking care of them and monitoring any potential health consequences. And I know I have your guarantee to do our due diligence on that.
So guarantee, I mean, we're hearing this language, it feels very performative to me. So everybody knows who Betty McCollum is. She is Minnesota's 4th District rep, but she sits on the House Appropriations Committee. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's a performance, right? On both ends. And in the video you just played from Empire Files, So when I produced that video, I did a whole bunch of research into not just legislators' conflicts of interest, but also kind of the revolving door politics. And I found a lot of stuff on the Secretary of the Navy. So Carlos Del Toro, before he was Secretary of the Navy, during their vetting process, they have to disclose all of their financial ties and then, relieve themselves in usually something like a blind trust, particularly if their personal investments conflict with their job. And so he was the co-founder of this company called SBG Technology Solutions, which relates to, Navy contracting work, include it's a lot of IT stuff, but also in like shipbuilding processes. And so he divested of $25 to $50 million in owner equity before, being voted in as the Secretary of the Navy. And you can best believe that, he's going to go right back to that business as soon as he transitions out of that spot. In fact, he's made very public, demands for the Navy to have, a much greater, ramping up to really escalate towards World War III with China, despite China having zero interest in engaging in that, right? To really build out the ship fleet. So he's basically preparing the other side of the door that he's going to exit out of, right? And so we can't trust people like Carlos Del Toro to do the right thing by even the Navy families, because I went with Abby Martin and Empire Files onto one of their ships during the Rim of the Pacific Games, which is they're the largest military games in the world, where the U.S. invites all of its imperialist allies and vassal states to come, blow up the land and water, the indigenous, lands and waters of Hawaii, and also, several other places around their territories. And so we got on this ship, and then we were left off at a hangar, and we were told by our handlers that Secretary Del Toro would be taking questions. And one of the questions from the local reporters was, are you going to visit the military families affected by Red Hill while you are here? And he said, no, I don't have time for that. I'm completely consumed by RIMPAC. So that just gives you an indication of how little he cares, even about, the people he you would want to believe he actually cares about. So just imagine, if he and Navy Command care that little about their own service members, how little they care about, the people of Hawaii, namely the people who are indigenous to this Aina, right? So, and it also has to be taken into account that, in the monitor wells in 2021, the Navy was getting readings of over 400 parts per billion of TPHD, which is the most toxic part of jet fuel, in their waters early as July. And then they knew about the Red Hill leak. They saw it. It was reported to them by the guy who was driving the cart, who then took video camera phone footage that we now have all seen. And they knew about that leak. They knew that it was traveling towards the well, and they shut off the well out of an abundance of caution a week prior to people getting sick. But they didn't tell the residents who were relying on that water supply, hey, maybe just out of an abundance of caution, don't drink this water. So they did the moral calculus, and we're seeing the results of that equation. They made a conscious decision to let that water flow to their own people, to their own babies. That's
my understanding is that they were trying to make the argument that the cement barriers surrounding where the fuel line travels underground would be substantial enough to block the fuel from getting into the water. It sounds to me like they went through this whole calculus of, they knew it was leaking, they knew it had, was out there going into the cement, but for some reason they were making this, the odds of it actually,
and what's wild about that is there's a track line in the Red Hill facility, right? And that track line has this recessed area, so the tracks go up, and then there's just this what could basically just be a reservoir for a fuel water mixture, just to flow straight down into the same tunnel that leads to the Red Hill well, right? So this is how ass backwards their priorities are. Even in the making of this Red Hill facility, the Red Hill well, which they up until recently drew water from, was in the same tunnel as their fuel pipeline. And so
I did not know that.
This is just a symptom of a systemic problem, right? When capital, is prioritized over all human life, even your own service people, you will make these mind-boggling decisions on your own. We have heard from other people who we're now organizing with, people who are in charge of inspecting Navy vessels. One guy wasn't, he was tasked with inspecting, a water supply on a battleship, and he looked and he saw running through, when he opened up the hatch and looked into the water supply, he saw this pipeline going straight to the center of the tank, and he asked one of the engineers, what's that pipeline? He's like, oh, that's fuel. And it's well, What, couldn't you just run the pipe around the water tank?
Yeah,
No,
why?
They
would
shot
you?
a pipeline.
That's
A fuel
insane.
pipeline just straight through the water tank. And we're seeing this with, I think it's the USS Nimitz recently. It leaked jet fuel directly into their water supply. And we had to get, like there were whistleblowers who were sending images of this to military Instagram pages. And that's how folks found out. But the Navy was trying to cover it up.
That's
so it's
crazy.
Like, yeah, this is systemic. Yeah, it's not just Red Hill.
So where can people go to learn more about the water protectors and kind of stay abreast of this? Because, the corporate media is ignoring it, and, we do the best we can here, but it just seems like at every turn, they're just
more and more updates.
Yeah. It's just one nightmare.
Where do you want to direct people to go?
If y'all want to learn more, OahuWaterProtectors.org, and we are on all the social medias, all the major social medias. Oahu WP on Twitter, Oahu Water Protectors on Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok. So yeah, we're all over the place. And yes, please follow our work. And if you live in Hawaii and you want to get involved with organizing, please hit us up, because that's what it's going to take. We need to build a mass movement where we can actually, shut things down until they actually commit to doing the right thing with respect to Red Hill.
Mikey, to end on a little bit of a lighter note, I got a special request. Please say the name of the state you live in one more time.
Oh, Hawaii.
It sounds so cool when you say it.
I know, right?
I can't say it like that. I'm not even going to try. But it sounds so cool when you say it. I love it. I say it
Hawaii.
I say it. I know.
Yeah.
I say it the Knox way, man. I wish, but it sounds so beautiful and poetic when you say it. I love it. Well, you say it the right way, but yeah. Thank you so much for doing what you do, man, and thanks for taking some time to talk to us today.
No,
and we'd like to have you back for an update as things progress here, because I want to keep my eye on this story. It's important.
Absolutely, yeah, and thank you so much for shining a light on it, because more people need to know about what's going on here.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. Yeah.